Hello and welcome back to my channel. I watch YouTubers who say what their channel is and I'm like, I should be saying what my channel is. So basically I'm an English literature major. That's the only thing I'm good at is reading and writing. So I decided to make that my whole entire life. I like talking about books. I like taking pictures of books. I do have a bookstagram. I like talking about literary concepts. I do occasionally talk about the things that I'm watching, which tends to be anime a lot. This is my May reading wrap up. That should have been done earlier, but when I say I've been busy, it's like I've been wanting a full-time job. Well, I've been needing a full-time job. I don't really necessarily want a full-time job because, you know, I do not dream of labor, but I've been needing a full-time job to pay my bills. And I've also been looking for internships. The full-time job currently is just, again, something to pay my bills. The internship is hopefully something that can help me in my future post-graduation. So yeah, I wanted those things. I have those things now, but I am a little busy. Also in school. This is my last semester. So it's already been 4 minutes that I've been talking. Anyway, so I do talk about book things tonight. I should be in bed, but we're talking about what I read for May. Only 3 books for May, and then for June I've technically read about 3 books, but the one book that I read I don't think I will be talking about, so I think I'll only be talking about 2 books for June, and I might make it there in a series, so I might just talk about the series. Maybe I'll do like a long video maybe for that. Anyway, let's get into what I've read for May, or what I did read for May. In my last video that I just did, I kind of hinted at a book that I read that was difficult for me. This book is So Let Them Burn by Kamilah, and this is a book that was a part of my 24 of 2024. It was one of my most anticipated, well, not my most anticipated, but it was it was a book that I wanted to read this year, and I read it. I got it from the library, and it took me almost a month to read. I mean, I can read books really quickly. Sorry, I live right by a road. I can read books quickly. I mean, within a week is not quick for some people. Some people read books within a night, but I can read books within a week. It can take me a month to read a book, even if I like it. I just, I'm not a fast or slow reader. I just take my time. Even with books that I like, if it takes me a while, I'm wanting to always go back to it. If I'm not able to, if I'm really busy and that's what's preventing me from finishing the book, it's hard for me. If I want to read the book, I will actively seek it out whenever I can. If it's a book that I feel like I'm not enjoying, I will leave the book for several days. I don't know, it is hard for me to not find out what happens for anything. I think there was one book within recent memory that I started and I was like, yeah, I can't do this. I can't do this, which is funny because when I was younger, when I was a kid, I've always been a reader. I would read as a kid, but I never finished the books. I would just stop reading. For no reason in particular, I would just stop reading. But now that I'm older, I have to finish the book. Even if especially because, I don't know, I read books and I get to the halfway point and I'm like, well, I got this far, so I may as well finish, you know what I mean? So I don't know, but certain books like this book that I read, So Let Them Burn, there were issues for me, but some of the plot point, I did want to know what happened. And that's usually my downfall, that even if I don't love something, if I want to know what happens, that's why I will continue series that I don't love, because I want to know what happens, okay? And that has to do with the series that I will be talking about for June. But anyway, so Let Them Burn is a book that I thought would be a part of my May. Yeah. I thought it would be a part of my April reads, and it was not, because I didn't finish it in time. Let me see if I can find the synopsis, because I don't I think one of the things is too, maybe that's indicative of a book that really captured me, is something that I can explain off the top of my head. But oftentimes when I do have, I have to do it with a lot of books, even books that I like, but just for clarity's sake, because sometimes I'm not very good at explaining things, so how like reading a synopsis helps me explain the book. But when there's a book that I read that I really don't know how to explain because I just didn't really understand it very much, or like it just something wasn't clicking, I definitely need the synopsis. Like I can explain to you that this book is there's a Caribbean, Jamaican kind of inspired world, and much like Jamaica and the Caribbean as a whole, they were colonized by a much larger, bigger power. And you know, this is a fantasy. The races aren't real world human races, but the people in this fictional like Caribbean and in this fictional, it's called San Irie. That is the island country that the setting mostly takes place in. That is the country that was colonized by the Langley Empire, I think. Yeah. So they were colonized by the Langley Empire. The San Irie, they are people who are brown skin, dark skin, and the Langley Empire is people who are fair skinned and who have white skin. And so it's, you know, like analogous to the British Empire colonizing many parts of the world where brown and black people live. I do appreciate it's the same thing with the book that I'm reading right now. I appreciate the attempt at discussing colonization and the effects of it, the effects of like war when colonies do rise up and inevitably try to, I don't want to say fight the power because that's so cliche, but they try to, I mean, essentially fight the power. Yeah. Is that my dog? I think she wants to be let into my room. If you hear like, girl, if you hear movement or whatever, my camera is right in front of my bed and my dog is now on my bed. But so let them burn. It is a Jamaican inspired fantasy that follows a gods, plural, blessed heroine who's forced to choose between saving her sister or protecting her homeland. Farron Vincent can channel the power of the gods. 5 years ago, she used her divine magic to liberate her island from its enemies, the dragon-riding Langley Empire. But now, at 17, Farron is all powered up with no wars to fight. She's a legend to her people and a nuisance to her neighbors. A nuisance? Indeed. She's not my favorite character. When she's forced to attend an international peace summit, my eye itches. Farron expects that she will perform tricks like a trained pet and then go home. She doesn't expect her older sister, Alara, forming an unprecedented bond with an enemy dragon, or the gods claiming the only way to break that bond is to kill her sister. As Farron's desperation to find another solution takes her down a dark path and Alara discovers the shocking secrets at the heart of the Langley Empire, both must make difficult choices that will shape each other's lives as well as the fate of their world. By turns... Wait, okay. No, that's a comment from another author. So first off, this book is dual POV. It switches between Farron and her sister Alara. The synopsis does not imply that at all, but it switches between Farron and Alara. They're not too far apart, although Alara definitely, and it does come up a lot, and this I actually like because Alara is the older sister and there's commentary on her role as the older sister, but I do have friends who are older siblings, and I know... So especially I have a friend who, she has a younger sister and a younger brother, and she has often talked to me, and I've seen it. I saw it when she got her car and her license. She would be at both schools picking up both her siblings because her sister was in like high school and then her brother was in elementary. I don't know if he's in middle school now, but I saw her when her parents were at work. She was picking up her siblings. She was taking them to the appointments they needed to go to. And so like I understand that responsibility, like having that responsibility and that pressure as the older sibling. And so I liked those elements regarding Alara. So I just want to say that Farron is basically like the chosen one. San Irie, the island that was colonized by the Langley Empire, they went to war against the Langley Empire, and like I said in the synopsis, they have dragons and San Irie does not. Dragons can do a lot of damage, but San Irie happened to win. They have these like, I forget what they call them, but they have these like mechanical dragons that somehow, I don't know if they're really sentient. I don't think they're sentient, but then they say that like they choose their riders and like people seem to bond with them. I don't really know. So even though they don't have dragons, they do have something that has the ability to go like toe-to-toe sort of with dragons. And so Shenanigans is able to like win their independence, but this all happens pre the book. So by the time, oh wait, I didn't even explain, okay, I didn't even say that during whatever war happened that does not happen in the book, that we are not privy to, we're not present for, we just learn about it through the like aftermath of everything. But during this war, Farron prayed to the gods, and people are always praying to the gods. That's what they say in this book, is that people, you know, are always praying, but for some reason they heard Farron and they attached themselves to Farron. So Farron can, it's like, I don't really understand the magic quite well in this book, but people can like channel, and Alara can do it, like channel or summon. Like typically they do it with ancestors, but Farron is able to do it with the gods, and obviously being gods, they give her power. Not sure what kind of power, but she somehow helps them win this war, and she is like the blessed child. People are like just in awe of her. She's a symbol for the people of Shenanigans, basically. And it is a lot of pressure for Farron. It's also a lot of pressure for Alara. Her sister is the chosen one, and Alara is just like, hi, I'm Alara. There's that dynamic. So in the synopsis, it says that Farron is forced to attend an international peace summit, which, yes, that does happen. And then at this peace summit, something happens with Alara. I don't really know how much to say. Should I? Okay, I mean, it's in the synopsis. It's not a spoiler. So at this peace summit, this is the inciting incident. And it feels uneventful to me personally. But the inciting incident is this peace summit. The book opens with like, you know, like we're establishing who Farron is, who Alara is. We sort of establish some relationships, some friendships. Certainly with this one other character who I can't remember his name. I'm really bad at that, forgetting people's names, like characters' names. But he's the love interest for Farron. We establish some relationships. We mention the parents like very briefly. They're not really that important, but mostly it's leading up to this peace summit, which is, like I said, the inciting incident where Alara makes a unprecedented bond with an enemy dragon. Remember, sort of, I don't know if you're following me in this very incoherent babble, the Langley Empire, they have dragons. Shenanigans does not. So Shenanigans, those people, they are not supposed to bond with dragons, but Alara has. And because of this, since Alara has bonded with a dragon, I can't remember why, but the gods that are attached to Farron are like, you're gonna have to kill her. And she's like, I don't want to kill my sister. And they're like, no, but you're gonna have to kill her. Farron doesn't want to kill her sister. They love each other very much. They have a very tight-knit bond. So she spends most of the book trying to figure out how to not have to kill her sister. And her sister spends the rest of the book in the Langley Empire at their school, like their Hogwarts, basically, learning to sort of be a combatant, a dragon rider. She has a co-writer, or she's this person's co-writer. And like, it's like Basgiath, I guess. Basgiath? Actually, that's how it's pronounced, for Fourth Wing. I don't know when this book was written or anything, but I don't think it was inspired by Fourth Wing. I think it just happens to be similar. There's tons of dragon writing books. This also is actually a sapphic book. That's also a positive point. Alara's co-writer, whatever the fuck she is, I don't know. They call her like, Alara's like the wing leader, and the other person is, I forget her name too. Or not her name, but I think her name is Sydney, but I forget her role. But they share a bond with the dragon, and they end up, that's their love interest, so that's cute. And I think they're cute together. Although their relationship did, like, at first Sydney didn't like Alara. She was like grumpy around her, and then they just started getting like close. I don't really know how or why that happened. It just seemed like it kind of happened a little fast to me. Alara spends the rest of her time in the Langley Empire. And the thing is though, like, while she's at this school, like, nothing happened. Like, she doesn't do anything. It's the same thing with Fourth Wing. It's like they, you know, I mean, like, you do kind of see them do things. Like, they do the obstacle course that's inspired by American Ninja Warrior, but they just like don't do anything. Like, they just don't do anything. Like, they go to libraries and they like have conversations and they have like a duel with somebody, like a writing duel, but like nothing happens. And that's like the thing with some of these books, is like nothing's happening. Like, I'm not saying I'm an expert at it at all. I've talked about writing and how like I'm writing a book, and maybe whenever I publish a book, people will get my book and be like, nothing's happening in this either, bitch. You can't write a plot either. Like, I get it. It's, writing is hard, but I'm just like, I'm reading these books and like nothing happens. Nothing is happening. Writing a long form book, I honestly find writing short stories to be a little harder. I've always been told that I overwrite. And so my thing has been to pull myself in, because I write a lot. So I don't know, I guess like writing a long form story, it is hard. Like, you have to fill in the gaps, and like there's somebody snoring in the living room, so sorry if you can hear that. But I don't know how long this book is, and I also know that when new authors and stuff, they don't necessarily they're not given the grace like Sarah J. Maas is with her door stoppers of books. They can't just necessarily write whatever they want, because if they're like an unknown author, their publisher is not necessarily willing to give them 600 pages to flesh out their story. I get it, but I don't know, like, it's just like so many books that I've read, I'm like, nothing is happening. For example, I'm going to talk about this book, and that was the complaint for this book, that nothing was happening and that it was like slow in the beginning up until a certain point. But the thing is, with this book, which I loved, and I'll talk about it, it was fleshed out enough. When things happened, it didn't feel like it came out of nowhere, because people had time to connect, and you had, I don't know, there was just time to like see relationships build, understand the characters. And I just, with some of these books, like, that's not happening. So like, Alara's at the Langley Empire School. I want to see her do more things with the dragons. I want to see her in class learning about the Langley Empire and like the history of it and stuff. I mean, I know that she knows probably about it, but I don't know as the reader, you know what I mean? And the thing is, I think what could have been remedied with this book is if Alara was the main character. The dual POV, I don't think it was needed. I think that Alara should have been the protagonist, because so many stories are, especially YA fantasy like this, are centered around the chosen one, which is not bad. I don't have a problem with the chosen one. I don't have any tropes that I dislike. It's just how it's done. Some people have tropes they don't like. I don't care. However, I think it would have been interesting to have a subversion of that trope and not make Farron a main character, make her a side character as the chosen one, and then Alara, who feels like because stuff happens, and by the end, Alara becomes somebody special. I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm just saying she does become somebody special according to the guidelines of like the chosen one trope. So it'd be interesting to have her be just like the normal one, the average one, the one who doesn't excel in things and who like maybe gets ignored and overlooked. Did I say that word already? I don't know. But it'd been interesting to have that subversion of the trope and have her be the main character and see her suddenly get attention with with bonding with a dragon, and, you know, being in enemy territory and having to go to the Langley Empire and learn about their culture. I also will say I did like how the colonizers, the Langley Empire, when she's there, she learns that there are people who are kind and who don't agree with the Langley Empire's ideology, which I think is good, because obviously in the societies of the oppressor, the people in those societies are not always necessarily agreeing with the higher power. I think this book really would have benefited from having Alara be the main character, especially because Farron is not that likable, and maybe that's on purpose. And, you know, that's fine. Not all characters have to be likable, sure, but I didn't enjoy reading from her perspective. I personally preferred Alara. I actually liked her character. I think she should have been the main character. I do kind of want to read the second book, only just because I think this is a duology, and I want to read the second book because I do want to know what happens. That is my fatal flaw, is I'm too curious of a person. The next book that I'm going to talk about is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. If you have read From Blood and Ash, or you've seen people talk about From Blood and Ash, or you've seen me talk about From Blood and Ash, anything that I have to say about that book, I would say about Serpent, The Serpent and the Wings of Night. They're basically the same book. But let me read you the synopsis of The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This one also has vampires. Human or vampire, the rules of survival are the same. Never trust, never yield, and always, always guard your heart. The adopted human daughter of the night-born vampire king, Aurea, carved her place in a world designed to kill her. Her only chance to become something more than prey is entering the Kajari, a legendary tournament held by the goddess of death herself. But winning won't be easy amongst the most vicious warriors from all 3 vampire houses. To survive, Aurea is forced to make an alliance with a mysterious rival. Everything about Rain is dangerous. He is a ruthless vampire, an efficient killer, an enemy to her father's crown, and her greatest competition. Yet what terrifies Aurea most of all is that she finds herself oddly drawn to him. But there's no room for compassion in the Kajari. War for the House of Night brews, shattering everything that Aurea thought she knew about her home. And Rain may understand her more than anyone, but their blossoming attraction could be her downfall. And yeah, one of the comp titles is From Blood and Ash, and also Court of Thorns and Roses, which, yeah, I'm begging people to, I mean, you can be inspired by anything. Truly. I mean, like, I'm inspired by Tolkien, and obviously that's not new to fantasy. There's so many fantasies that have parallels to Tolkien's world, but I am begging people to stop using ACOTAR as inspiration. It's not even that they're using it as inspiration, they're directly taking things from that book series. Stop. It doesn't feel like an homage or anything. It just feels like doing something to kind of appease. I mean, I don't know, I guess that's just what people do. Everybody does it, like movies, TV. They take things from things that are really popular and they put it in their thing to appeal to that audience. I get it. It's, you know, for marketing, it's people got to make their coin too. Like, I get it. For me, I mean, I'm not going to a lot of these books hoping for full immersion, but it does take me out of the story because I listened to this on Audible, but like I'm listening or reading and I'm like, oh, this is very obviously, this is supposed to be like Resand. There's some similarities of this book to not just From Blood and Ash, but certainly ACOTAR. The main male character, the love interest, his name is Rain, who I liked him more than I thought I would. Meaning, like, a lot of these books I don't like the main male character, but like I'm not swooning or I don't really care about his character, but I actually liked him and I felt like he had a lot more personality than what is typical for the main male characters of these books. I was actually interested in him as a person and not just the love interest, you know? Like, I was actually interested in him as a character. And so I thought that was interesting, and I liked that him and Aurea actually talked. Because the couples in these books don't talk. And if they do talk, it's about the dumbest things. It's just stupid, and it's all disguised as like lustful, you know, conversations. But they actually had like legit conversations that couples should have, even when they weren't like an official couple. I don't even know, did the book end with them as an official couple? No, it didn't. Not really, I don't think. But it did end with a certain like revelation, sort of. And honestly, I will say, I just said that curiosity is my fatal flaw, but I am not curious about the next book. I'm not personally interested in continuing because there's not anything that I really need to have confirmed or anything that I want to know. Same thing with From Blood and Ash. I don't need to know. Like, I'm good. And it ended almost the exact same way as From Blood and Ash. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, oh, it's crazy. I mean, do I need to touch up my lipstick? I do. My lips aren't colorful enough. It's enjoyable, just like having the kind of entertainment while I was busy doing something. But I just, you know, outside of the entertainment factor, because like so many of these books, I don't really take a lot from it, if that makes sense. Like, there's not a lesson that I learned. Not like there has to always be a lesson, but I don't really feel like I learned anything. I don't feel like I feel close to certain characters. But that's the opposite for this book, which I'll talk about now because I really enjoyed this book. And that was definitely my favorite book of May. It's one of my favorite books of this year. All right, so the back has its own synopsis. Obviously, I don't have to read it from Goodreads. The synopsis is actually funny. It says there's like two different ones, sort of. There's like a big, bold one. I'll read that. So a curmudgeonly professor journeys to a small town in the far north to study fairy folklore and discovers dark magic, friendship, and love in this heartwarming and enchanting fantasy. Okay, that's more like not even a blurb. Cambridge professor Emily Wilde is a genius scholar who is writing the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore. So yeah, basically in this world, the first chapter, this book is Emily Wilde's, who is a professor of fairy lore. This is basically her journal as she documents her journey as she's compiling this Encyclopedia of Fairies. And so the journal begins with a date, 20th October 1909, and the rest of the journal entries, it doesn't give the year, but it takes place in 1909, so it's the early 20th century. In this world, it is known like fairies exist. It's kind of like fairies in this world are fairies like that you would find in several different cultures, folklore. And the fairies are not always, you know, tall and beautiful or small little pixies. They're just all different kinds of beings, and they're just fairies, and Emily studies them. And I really liked Emily as a character. She is, like it says, a curmudgeonly professor. She's really not that bad. She just has a hard time like relating to people. She's very academic. A complaint I saw on Goodreads is that this book is pretentious. I mean, I disagree. There's like big words and stuff, I guess. Not too many. I don't think it was really too hard to read, but there are words sometimes that, because the book is in Emily's perspective, because she's writing in her journal. And so there are sometimes things worded very, I don't want to say robotically, how a very academic, somebody who is sort of stilted a little bit, like just, it reads like a professor who doesn't have many friends, who's a little awkward and has a hard time relating to people. It reads sometimes like that because that's her character. So I don't personally think it's pretentious, because Emily's not, her intention isn't to be pretentious or like be smarter than everybody. She doesn't even really act like that. It's just she knows a lot about fairies, and that is her subject. There are certain things that she's very much not good at, and that she will admit to. She has a colleague, Wendell, is it Bramberly? See, I remembered his first name. Brambly? I forget. It's Wendell Brambly, something like that, but his name is definitely Wendell. She's a colleague who is very charismatic. He makes friends everywhere he goes. She acknowledges that he's good at something that she is not, which is being personable. She also, right off the bat, and I was not expecting this, she was like, I believe he's a fairy. And when it's revealed, he's like, yeah, duh. I love them. I love the two of them together. He is just like very obviously smitten with her. And she's kind of, I think there are times in the book where she was like, I think he kind of is fond of me, but she doesn't know how to like, because, you know, he's a fairy and she's not, and she studies fairies, and, you know, it's like a weird, I guess, conflict of interest, but they're very cute together. I really like their relationship. The way it ended, I'm super excited to read the second one. I went to the friggin' bookstore trying to find the sequel to this book. I could not find it. I went to 2 different bookstores, could not find it. I might have to order it. I got this one from Amazon, and I ordered it twice because it came with like a little crinkle on the cover, and I just thought this book was so pretty, and I was like, I ordered this because it's beautiful, and then there's like a mistake on it, but it doesn't matter. But now I've been trying to find the hardcover for the sequel, because now that I have this one that's the hardcover, I need the hardcover for the sequel. Like, they have to match. But also I couldn't find either. Like, I couldn't find the hardcover or the paperback of the sequel in any bookstore. Well, the 2 that I went to, I loved the 2 of them together, so I'm very excited to read like the development of the relationship in the second book. But so what I was talking about with So Let Them Burn, what I like about this book, but one of the complaints again that I saw about this book is that it's slow, that it does take a while to kind of get to the action, so to speak. I can't remember exactly where she is. It says she goes to the north. I think she's like in Iceland or something, and their fairies are like the tall, beautiful, kind of elf-like fairies, like Lord of the Rings elves. They like steal people's daughters, and they're just kind of tormenting this small village in, I believe, Iceland. Like I said, I think it is Iceland. But Emily, that's not initially her concern. She's just there to study these. They're called, I forgot what they're called. Oh my God. There's like certain specific things that I forget, and it'd be really helpful if I could look it up on like a wiki, but I don't think there's a wiki. I think I tried to find one, but anyway, I forgot what they call them. They're called like the Others or something. I really don't know. But they are a type of fairy that has not really been, no, wait a minute. Okay, I think that the type of fae that the fairies are in Iceland. I think they're the kind of, not even just specifically in Iceland, but in other places around the world, they are the type of fae that are the least studied, like the brownies and the pixies and stuff. I don't think there's pixies. I don't think she talked about pixies, but I'm just example. The like smaller, less powerful fae are the ones that are highly studied and recorded, but these higher fae that are tall and beautiful and very powerful, they are not studied very well. And so she wants to get more information on them for her encyclopedia, and so that's why she's there. She's not like being called because there's a problem in the village. She's just there to study them. But while she's there, she does learn that they are tormenting the village and like stealing people. There's also a couple in the village. Their child was taken because there's and this is also from real folklore, like changelings. A lot of people have heard about it, but if you don't know what a changeling is, it's basically, according to folklore, a fairies will switch out a human child with their child. And oftentimes, like in the past, people who had babies with deformities or disabilities, they would blame it on, well, it was a changeling. It's a changeling. But in this fantasy world, the changeling is a real thing. It's a real fairy baby. I don't know if I'm just making this up, but I think maybe at some point the child starts to look icy, because that's how the fae of this Scandinavian village look. Like, they look kind of icy and stuff. So I think maybe he starts to look more like that. I could be lying though. I could be lying, or not lying, but misremembering. But basically, he's awful. He is causing this couple who have lost their child even more grief, because he can cast like illusions, and he casts like really awful illusions that are horrible to look at. Like when Emily first encounters this child, it's really creepy because he's like standing in the window and like smacks like a bloody hand against the window. I like that the fae are really, really fairies in this. They are very different. Even Wendell, who has blended in with human society, he has a sort of blasé, is that the word? I think so. He has a very like nature towards humanity, because he's immortal. He's, a fairy. So they are just like, meh. Like, I can't think of a word. I'll just do that. Meh. That's how he is towards like a lot of humans, although he does care a lot about Emily. And it's really sweet. It's really sweet. But yeah, I do like that the fairies feel a lot like fairies. But anyway, back to what I'm talking about. As I said, it starts off slowly because for the most part, Emily's just here like in this country and in this village, kind of just surviving day by day. It's very cold. She's in a cabin that she has to chop her own wood and stuff like that. A lot of it is in the beginning, the villagers do not really like her very much. And so a lot of it is her getting to know them, getting her to trust them, but through genuine ways. Even though she has a hard time relating to people, she does ultimately win them over because she is a good, genuine person. She just has to kind of learn that she does care about people. I think that she just has been so focused on like what she's good at and what she really likes and enjoys, which is academia and fairies. But she learns that she can be compassionate and form like bonds with people. And I just really liked her relationship with the villagers and how they came around. But like, it's enough time I feel like was given to develop that relationship. I feel like it was done well in this book with Wendell and Emily, with like developing their relationship with Emily and the villagers. It was just one of those books where I definitely kept wanting to go back to, wanting to read it every chance I got, which is how I know that I'm really invested in a book. Wendell, I will say Wendell, he reminds me a lot of Howl from Howl's Moving Castle, because he is just so dramatic. And I love it. I love it. And it's a really good way to play off of Emily's character, who is so like straight-laced and just like, she's the straight man sort of. Wendell is the dramatic drama queen, and I love him for it. Also, Wendell, like I said, he's a fairy, but he's an Irish fairy, and he is, I am excited to see his homeworld. I don't know if that happens in the second book or the third book, but there is drama in Wendell's fairy kingdom, and there's obviously going to be a lot going down with that, and that's also partly why I want to know what happens. Like, basically his stepmom has like taken over, like he's supposed to be the king, and his stepmom has taken over the kingdom, and he was like banished or something, or yeah, I think he was like banished, and he's trying to find his way back and take his rightful place as king, and I want to see that happen. I want to see how it happens. It's fantasy, it's romance, it's cozy, there's funny some things to it. It's kind of dark at times. I think it was just really well written, and I had a really great time with it. This is one of my favorite books this year, along with The Bear and the Nightingale. You can kind of probably tell the kind of books that I like based off of that. Yeah, I really like whimsy and magic, but I like when it makes sense. Like in fantasy, you can do whatever you want, but it still has to make sense. Like you can make up stuff, you can make up your own rules, but it still has to make sense. And like this is a pretty tight novel. The plot is pretty tight, and yeah, it's good. I really liked it. That's it for May. So I do like to talk about the things that I've been watching at the end of what I've been reading in May. I already did like a whole video, but I will briefly talk about certain things right now at the end of this video because I want to. It's June, so this is technically not for May, but I do want to talk about them just a tad bit. So one thing that I wanted to give an update because I talked about Gintama in my last video, and I said that I had not gotten very far, so I had nothing to really say about it, but I've gotten to at least episode 30, and I have to say that I love it. It's a really good anime. It's very funny. I love Gintoki. I love him, and I would marry him, but then I decided that he'd probably make an awful husband, but he'd make a great friend. I would like to be friends with him, but he probably would make an awful husband. I love the trio, and I do like that. It's very silly and funny. It's a comedy, but when there's serious moments, it is genuinely, like, it's genuine. It puts me in a good mood. Honestly, it puts me in a good mood. I just wanted to give an update on that. I've been watching Gintama more because honestly, when I first started watching it, I didn't know how to feel about it from like the first, second, third episode, but actually getting into the show, I enjoy it, and I get it. And I don't love everything that I watch. There's things that I've started and stopped, and I'll be honest, I'll say it. I started watching was it Maid Sama? I started watching that one. That's like another classic romance anime, but something wasn't clicking for me. Maybe one day I'll try and rewatch it, but something was not clicking for me. So I don't like everything that I watch. I have discernment, but yeah, I just wanted to update. I really like Gintama. And then I also watch K-dramas, and for a while that was my stuff. I watched all the new K-dramas, but I kind of stopped for a while, but I restarted. I had started Mr. Queen a really long time ago when it came out, and basically it is about like a chef. A very important political person comes to eat his food at his restaurant, I think, or something. That this chef, he's framed for poisoning this political figure, and he is going to be arrested, and he's like, no. So he tries to run away, and he lives in an apartment, like not a penthouse, but pretty high up, and he goes on the balcony and he slips and falls and hits his head pretty hard. It ends up sort of, I don't know if it's reincarnation or what, but he ends up switching bodies. It's like a body swap comedy. He ends up switching bodies with a queen. I don't know what period, but she's a real person. She was a real person, but it's like the 1800s, like the mid to late 1800s. He switches with this queen, so he's a man in a woman's body, and not even just a man, but a modern man in a mid to late 18th century Korean woman's, not even Korean woman, not even just a Korean woman, a Korean queen. And so he's like navigating this world as somebody who is, I actually do like that They acknowledge that he's in the body of someone who's weaker. I don't know what the actual word would have been in Korean. I just know what the subtitle said. But somebody who's just more vulnerable, being a woman in a time period where a man, especially the king, would have more power than her. And so he kind of starts to understand that, because he's also like a cad when in his normal present day life. He's a cad. I don't know if he takes advantage of women, but like we see him, he's a player basically. But we see him starting to learn and understand like the struggles of women. I don't know how far that really goes. I don't think it's like feminism. He just acknowledges like that he would have more power if he were a man basically. So I've been watching that. Honestly, what happened, this Mr. Queen is like the show that I see a lot of people recommend to people to watch when recommending K-dramas. But where I stopped many years ago when I was watching that drama, I'm at the same spot, and I'm stopped at the same spot, and I don't get it. It's not like I don't like it. Just for some reason, I do kind of like it, but I don't know when I'll finish it. It came out in 2020. It's been 4 years, almost 5. I gotta finish it. Ouch, that hurt. Anyway, my back is hurting. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate anybody watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. My back. Bye.
Diamonds sparkling from clear sand.